Hey, welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to add the animations for your character so that instead of just sliding along the ground and not moving when he jumps in the air, we're going to create those animations. So to create the animations, what you need to do is, so with your player selected, we're going to add a component. So again, in the lower right, add a component, and we're going to add an animator. And then the animator will pop up. So that is all you really need to do for that part. And now it's just taking those graphics that we have already in the art folder and creating the animations for your character. So in the animation, so again, the animation window should pop up. At the bottom you have create. So we want to create the animation clip for the player. And then similar to what we did before, we want to organize these. So we're going to create another folder, so new folder. We're going to call it animations. You could, I guess, do the animations in the art folder. I'm just creating an animation folder. And then similarly, because may have other animations for other characters, we're going to create a folder in the animations for player. And then we want to open up that folder, and that's where we're going to be saving the animations. So the first animation that we're going to create is called the idle animation. So idle. And then this in the save as type should say anim, and then save. And then in the animation you have, so this is the animation clip. And what you need to do is add the images into the animation. So under our art folder, so pixel add, go down to where your main characters are. And we're using the idle, so this is the idle animation. So you want to drag each of these images into it. So you can just shift, select all of them, and then you can simply drag them down into that spot there. And then it puts them in. So if you want to view what this looks like, you can hit play and you can see the character's moving. So that looks like it's moving a little bit too fast. So we're going to slide these. So if they're all selected, if not, if they're off, you can again just select them all. So shift, select all of them, and we can drag them all like this. You can drag them all the way out. You could drag one at a time, but we're going to put these at 2, I think. So it looks like they're all at 2, and then we'll push play again. That looks a little bit better, maybe a little bit too fast still, so we'll go back and we're going to drag these so that they're all at 3. And nope, that one's not there. And now they're all at 3, so we'll push play again. And that looks a little bit better. So we're going to use that as the idle animation. And so that's it. So the idle animation is done. So where your idle is here, we want to create a new clip. And we are going to call this running. So we're going to create the clip for your character to run. Again, this clears out because now we're in the running script, running animation. And now we want to use these running, the run images. However, similar to at the beginning of the tutorials when we looked at adding a character, idle was set up so all of these images are set as 1. So what you need to do again is to take those and splice them so that you have each individual sprite separately. So again, just remember, so in our sprite editor over here, we want to change pixels per unit to 16. So there's multiple images in it. And you want to change the filter mode to point no filter and then apply that. Then click on the sprite editor. And in here, we want to slice these. And again, we know that these are 32 by 32. So we're going to make these 32 by 32 and slice them. And each image now is its individual object. So apply that. And now we have all of these run objects created. So again, select all of them, drag them over into here, into your animation. Click play. Again, it looks like character's running a little bit too fast. So we're going to drag these out a bit. So they're all at 3, I believe. No, they're not all at 3. So now again, we can push play. And that looks a little bit better. So we can stop that. Okay, so now that the running animation is completed, we want to go in and allow that to happen, allow the animations to work. So for example, if we actually just go back into the scene and push play, your idle animation is typically set as the default. So you can see your character is idling, i.e. it's just moving up and down to give your character some life. However, the running animation does not work currently. So if we go into the animator, so in the animator, we want to, so the entry, so it automatically enters into the idle animation. And then from there, we need to create a transition so that from idle, it moves into the running animation and vice versa. So before we do that, we need to first create a bool. So we're going to create a Boolean and we're going to call it isRunning. So this could be, you can call it whatever you wish. I'm just going to call it isRunning. And then with that, so we want to right click on the idle and you want to make a transition. So make transition to the running animation. And then similarly, if we right click from running, we want to make a transition back to the idle animation. So this will allow the animations to switch back and forth. So if you click on the arrow where that transition is, we need to use that Boolean now. So if you just click on the plus, so the conditions isRunning is true. So that's what we want. If you click on the arrow going from running back to idle, again, click on the add a condition. IsRunning, we need to be set to false. And that'll set up the animations. So again, currently right now, this, if we go back into the game and play it, it doesn't work, right? Because we need to tell the player script what to do. So if we go to the player, we want to edit the script. Okay, so in the script, we, similar to what we did before, so we have this in the inspector, we have that animator, which we need to find, right? So we need to locate that. So similarly we did with the rigid body, we're going to create a private animator, and I'm going to call it anim. Again, anim is just an arbitrary name that you can call it animator, you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it anim. And that will then locate the animator. Similar to what we did again with the rigid body, we need to now get that component. So anim equals get component. And we want to get the animator. And that will so now it'll get the animator, and then in the animator we created that Boolean, the Boolean that says isRunning. So all we need to do now to get these animations to work, idle is set automatic, so we're going to go down to where we're moving the player. So when the player is moving, so if the movement is in the right direction or if it's positive, we are going to simply set anim dot set bool. So again, what this is doing, so the animator, so we're going to the animator, we're getting the set bool. So set is capitalized, B is capitalized. And then in quotes, we want to use the Boolean that we named. So isRunning is the name that I used as the Boolean. And then use a comma, and then we're going to set this to true. And that'll set so by setting the isRunning to true, if you remember in that transition, now it's going to transition and the running animation is going to run. And then similarly, if the movement is to the left and less than 0, we're going to do the same thing. So we can just copy this. So the animator set bool is running is true. And now we want to return that so that the animation returns back to, so that it's not running. Else if move HD is 0, sorry, and and put your braces in. So else if the movement is 0, then we want to set the boolean. So anim.set bool, brackets, and again in quotes, is running, and then comma, and we want to change it so that the is running is false, which will return your character back to the idle animation. And that is it for the animation. So if we save your script here, so save the player controller, and if we go back into our game, so now if we play, your character will be able to, so when he falls to the ground, your character is idling, and then when you run, the character is moving. Now, if you jump and then idle, well, actually, I guess if I'm running, it's going to be hard to do that. One thing that you'll notice, though, is as you run when you stop, your character kind of still runs briefly for a second, right, before returning to idling. Same thing as if you stop and then you run, it takes that second. So to fix that, what we need to do is go back to the animator, and on these transitions, so idle to running, we want to actually has an exit time. So this will create a brief time before this actually happens. Similarly, for the transition from running to idle, we don't want to have an exit time, which means that it's going to it happens automatically. So if we go back to the scene view, push play, right, so when we run and stop, your character stops running automatically. Similarly, when we're running, it's more instantaneous, so you don't get that drag in terms of the idling as he runs. So that is it for the animations. What we're going to do in the next video is start looking at adding some other objects and looking at some enemies that we want to add to the game.